So this is the S1000 XR I've just picked up from Cooper's while my bike's in for its service. I'll give it a go, see what it's like. It's supposed to be a bit mental compared to the GS, but we'll see. So I've just ridden it to the petrol station because there was 14 miles of petrol in. So yeah, we'll see what it's like. Sitting on it, it feels pretty much like the GS, a little bit lower to the floor. Seats a lot harder, a lot firmer. Clutch is heavier, but it's a cable clutch rather than a hydraulic clutch. It's a bit louder. Yeah, so while we're in an average speed check area, riding position pretty much the same as the GS. It's quite windy today. Wind protection seems quite good. I haven't moved the screen, it's just where it is when I picked it up. Seems okay. See what it's like when I get a bit faster. Seats definitely firmer. Ride height's about the same, but virtually no weight on my arms. I was just trundling along. So you could easily sit on this all day. And the gearbox feels a lot firmer, a little more positive. I'll have to get used to revving the bike. I'm in fourth gear here at 3000 revs, which normally you put the GS in third, and you can just trundle along all day, do all this sort of stuff without even thinking about changing gear. So I'll have to get used to that. Wow. Right, we're in dynamic mode. I'm trying to find people saying that these are got vibration through the bars. Trying to get it to sit and see if I can find that vibration spot. There's nothing through the foot pegs. In fourth gear, about 6,000 revs. There's a little bit there, about 5,000. And it is only a small bit, I think. But it still pulls like a train. Nice and solid. No wobbles. So you can see that the ground's quite wet. So light rain to heavy spray. And that's the extent of the water. So pretty good rain protection. You see the bike's quite wet. So I've just done 50 miles or so, sat in traffic at about 70 mile an hour. So about 4,500 to 5,000 revs, which is where the vibration seemed to be the worst. And I don't have tingly fingers. I think if you had a bar end weight or some grip puppies or something like that, that would probably solve that. It would look nicer without the pannier racks on, possibly even the rear rack to get rid of and tidy the tail up, get that a bit shorter. It's a nice sounding bike, handles very nicely. Seats obviously a lot thinner than the GS's, whether you would get something a bit plusher for touring, although it wasn't uncomfortable. Say I did about 50 odd mile and no numb bum. Seating position is about the same as the GS. Power delivery is just completely different. So much more power, so much more. It really does fly. Tyres felt good in the wet, didn't have an issue. Had it in rain mode, to save a bit of fuel and to just while I get used to it. Hopefully it'll dry up and I'll give it a bit more of a thrash. As you can see, it's still spitting on, it's always the same, but very nice. I'm not sure about the white and blue. I like the HP, but makes it look more like a sports bike. But I'm not sure. It's got daytime running light, but we are on normal bulbs. It'd be nice to have LED headlights. The indicators are LED. I don't know if it's better to having them down there, whether they're more visible or not. From having the GS, I'd like some spotlights, maybe some sort of crash protection, even if it's just bobbins or whatever, and possibly a bit noisier exhaust would be nice, although it is quite good. A little stubby would be quite nice. But overall, I'm quite impressed with it. How it would be on fuel economy. The onboard computer's showing about 40 miles average. The onboard is pretty much as the GS. That's my sat-nav in place. You've got indicators, headlights, your ABS, suspension adjusting, cruise control, engine modes, heated grips. So the clutch is a cable clutch, and there's no adjustment for length. So if you had smaller hands, because it is quite a long way out, that would be maybe an issue. The daytime running lights there, which is quite nice, but I would prefer some of the more modern ones. I'm sure if they do an update, that would be it. I think that they should be on automatically. Your info is tells you your mileage. It's only done 938 miles, this bike, so it's got 88. It was 132 when I filled it up. I've done about 50 odd miles, so yeah, I'm getting about 40 miles to the gallon, even like giving it a bit of a rev. Gear indicator, tank level, engine mode, trips, average of 40 miles per gallon. Change your modes, rain, road, dynamic. Oh, there is a PowerPoint, which is quite good, like that. That was nice. You could run a camera or something. The screen, I think it just, yeah, so it was in the highest position, and the protection was okay, but it'd be nice to be able to drop it down there, a little stubby screen. Overall, very nice, usual good build quality. This is, of course, the HP version, or the Sport SE. Obviously it's chain driven, which is for lazy asses like me, it's going to be a bit more of a chew. This is the SE, so it should have everything. So we have got a centre stand, which I think is pretty much essential, but quite a nice looking bike. Definitely firmer suspension, even in road mode, which was the softest I could put it in, not dynamic. Definitely firmer than, more like dynamic in the GS. So hopefully the rain will stop, it'll dry up a bit. proper ride now, and the bike is now filthy. I'm sure that Coopers at Sunderland are going to appreciate that when I get it back. The suspension's a lot firmer than the GS. It's more to be expected, it's a road bike, but the power delivery is unbelievable. Probably 2 up with, I might find out later, get Rachel on, rolling on power in 4th and 5th gear. You probably found that the torque tells it's down about 15 Newton meters of torque, 1520 I think, but it's up on horsepower. It's 165, there's about 125 on my GS, and that's noticeable. It just takes off. Still feels strange revving it so much. I haven't been on sports bike for quite a while, and just riding at 6, 7, 8, 9,000 revs just feels alien now. But once you get used to that, the bike just wants to go constantly. It takes off. Wind protection's pretty good. Bike riding position very similar to the GS. I think you could easily tour on this. So for all the seats a lot firmer, it's not uncomfortable. I've done about 85 miles now with virtually no brake, just like 10 minutes here, and no problem at all. I'll have to see what Rachel thinks of it. I would like a TFT. I would like LED headlights. Apart from that, I don't really think it's missing much. The vibration issue that people talk about, not a problem. I rode a good 20 minutes stuck in traffic, about 70 mile an hour, 6 gear, 4,000 to 5,000 revs, and didn't get off with any issues. Back brakes a bit soft, front brakes are fantastic, gearbox is far superior to the GS, so much smoother up and down. Weather, and I reckon the 1000 RR is even better. I can't believe that. If this gets an upgrade and gets a TFT and maybe LED headlights and then the shift cam engine, which will put even more power into it, it's going to be unbelievable machine. Real on the road, give anything a run for its money. So after riding the XR, I got straight back on my GS, and I thought, you know, I'll ride this, sticking it in 3rd and 4th, as I said, and just trundling around. So I thought, no, let's give it a bit more. I wrote it more spiritedly around the 6,000 plus revs mark. And honestly, despite the extra horsepower of the XR, the GS still takes off pretty quickly. I know it's got about 40 kilos weight on it, but it's got a lot more torque, and that really tells in the real world. I had a look, and the 0 to 60 times within 0.1 of a second, and the 0 to the standing quarter miles are within less than a second, which is in real terms not that much. What the GS gains, yes, the GS turns a bit slow, but that's probably more down to the bigger front wheel, but it does gain in comfort, road presence. People don't miss you on a GS, especially the Adventure. The screen, the wind protection is just far superior. I was saying it wasn't that bad, but as soon as I got back on the GS I realised how much worse it was, and better for carrying a passenger, I think. I really like the XR, but it just felt like you wanted you to go fast again. You've got that sports bike thing of like blasting it everywhere, where the GS is quite happy to sit at a sedate pace, but if you ask it, it goes. 200 extra cc's obviously makes a bit of a difference. The one thing I did like was the noise, so I've done something about that and changed the can. give it a bit more engine noise. But I've been riding this a bit more spiritedly and I've forgotten how nimble the GS is. So would I change it? Probably not. It would have to be better. The XR would have to be a bit better. Now if it goes for the shift cam, and mine's the 1200 GS, I think if you had the 1250 you'd probably find they're even closer still. So to sum it up, the XR is a great bike, power, handling, build quality, everything. If you're a sports bike rider considering a swap to an adventure bike, that could be the way to go. But then if you're considering a swap to an adventure bike, aren't you looking for something that's a bit more adventurous and not just like a sports bike? I don't know. The XR's great for thrashing round back lanes and stuff like that, and I think you would struggle on a sports bike to keep up with it, ridden by a good rider. That said, that's its strength, that's its one strength. Compared to the GS, the GS up to legal speed limits is just about as fast, and it's more comfortable, it's got better wind protection, it's got 200 more cc, so it's better for carrying passengers and luggage, etc. It's a great bike, but maybe it's just a bit of a one-trick pony. The GS, it does one thing really well: it's fast and it's rideable. Is that two things? But the GS is rideable, it's comfortable, it's still fast, it's better at slow speeds, it carries passengers, it just does more things well. So if you're only going to have one bike in your garage, you're probably looking at the GS. I know it's unpopular and people don't believe how good the GS's are, but it's too similar a bike. If I was going to have something that you wanted to thrash around on, you might as well just buy a sports bike and then have the GS as well. I mean, this is just my opinion after 250 miles. I haven't toured on it, I haven't really ridden it too up. If you're buying one, you need to spend a bit more time investigating it. It'd be nice to keep it for about a week and have a really good ride around on it. As I said, excellent bike. If I'd ridden one before buying the GS, I think I'd be torn. But at the moment, to trade in the GS for that, it would have to be better. There'd have to be just that bit more. Go and get your own test ride. I mean, you might completely disagree with me. It's just what I've found.